You are viewing one of 10 modules developed through a project funded by Geoscience BC focused on direct-use geothermal resources in British Columbia. This follow-up project was carried out between August and December 2016. The project was executed by Tuyaterra Geocorp. These modules were developed from the Direct-Use Geothermal Resources Roadmap published by Geoscience BC in June 2016. They incorporate additional educational material that were developed as part of the current follow-up project. The voices you will hear narrating the module are myself, Catherine Hickson, and my colleague, Juliana Proenza.
Okay, welcome everybody. This is the 10th module of the webinar series. Basically, this module is summarizing our follow-up project that we completed between September and December of 2016. And as part of this follow-up project, these webinars were developed. And so we'll just be going through some of the other specific details that were completed during the length of that project. So just as a reminder on what the initial project did, the objective was basically to raise awareness that geothermal direct use resources have the potential for driving economic development in communities and lowering greenhouse gas emissions, and also just really highlighting that the risks involved in geothermal power production are much less so for direct use applications, particularly if you're looking on the geo-exchange side of the spectrum. And we're seeing more and more projects being developed utilizing that technology. And so we just really wanted to promote the use of direct use geothermal resources in the province. All of the details for this initial project were covered in Module 1. So if you want more information about what was done, you can refer to that module. And a big part of that project was a technical roadmap that was developed as a reference for communities that were interested in developing direct use heat applications. And so what we did is we tried to really build upon that technical roadmap and provide even more material for communities that were looking at evaluating alternative technologies, alternative methods for heating and cooling in their communities and businesses. So this is just some of the details for the roadmap. Again, if you'd like a little bit more information, refer to Module 1 for those details. But for the follow-up project, we essentially were just trying to further community engagement and capacity building in various communities, particularly communities that exhibited an interest in evaluating direct use and geo-exchange systems. So a regional workshop was held in the Lower Mainland in November, and there was presentations given. Two of these were in the Northeast BC Coalition Forum, which took place at the end of November, and the Nicola Thompson Regional District Board of Directors meeting, which took place in December. And in September and October, there were also two presentations given, one in Calgary at the Canadian Society of Petroleum Geologists meeting, where there was a geothermal workshop, just really highlighting the project that was being worked on in BC, and at the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of BC annual meeting in Victoria in October. And so these webinars will be available online, and we have also reached out to a few different educational institutions to see if there was potential for collaboration with whether or not they just wanted to use some of the resources, or if there is potential for guest lectures or things like that. So the objective of the follow-up project was to carry out the recommendations that were outlined in the initial project. And so those recommendations included hosting regional workshops and or attending relevant forums to raise the awareness of the development potential of direct use projects. One of the recommendations was to encourage communities to apply for funding to evaluate potential of direct use applications. And we've gone through some of the various funding opportunities in Module 8. And then providing a proposal for creating carbon offsets to incentivize geothermal development. And that's included as an appendix as part of the follow-up project report that will be available on the Geoscience BC website. There were some additional steps taken that were not initially recommended as part of the first project, and that was these 10 modules that were developed. Basically, these modules were considered really valuable for communities that did not necessarily have the capacity to go and attend a 1 or 2 day workshop. Just gauging from the conversations and communications with the communities that were reached out to, it wasn't clear that the communities would be able to attend these types of workshops. So these modules were essentially developed as a bridging material. And so they're available as PDF and webinar or video format where you can hear us going through the modules as I am currently. And we also put together a website portal, www.bcgeoheat.com, and a Twitter account that really just allows one location to highlight the different types of direct use applications that currently exist in the province and what the development potential is, and including these modules and the results of the initial project and the follow-up project on that website as well. And so an additional step that we took was that we really wanted to provide a framework for understanding the differences and similarities between geo-exchange, direct use, and even power production. So really highlighting the different perspectives and characteristics of the entire geothermal spectrum from lower to higher temperatures. So as I mentioned, there were a series of meetings and workshops held throughout the length of the project from September until December of 2016. And just some statistics in terms of how many communities were contacted. In the initial project, we contacted 63, and we only really engaged 4 communities that showed interest in evaluating geothermal as a development. And during the follow-up project, we increased the number of communities that were contacted to 83, which includes the 63 that were initially contacted. And we were able to have some sort of back and forth discussion with 29 of these communities. And some of these were communities that were present at the presentations, and then we followed up with, and other communities reached out to us, and so there is a range of how much interest there was. Some communities reached out and said, we currently don't have the capacity to evaluate, and these communities are listed here because in some communities the challenges was that it was unclear who the right person was to talk to, and that's just something that as communities become more aware of direct use and geo-exchange as a potential economic driver and reducer of greenhouse gas emissions, and so it'll become more clear. Sometimes it was an economic development staff member, other times it was the planning department. In one case, we had a building manager attend a workshop that was really interested. Every community is organized differently, and who the right people to talk to in each community varies, and so that's an important part of engaging communities when looking at raising awareness for a type of development. So we did reach out to several organizations and institutions that included the Community Energy Association, where there is the possibility of them using parts of the modules for class lectures in the community-based renewable energy course at BCIT. Northern Lights College is possibly interested in collaborating between Northeast BC communities and local industry for a greenhouse project, so that could be something that's really exciting moving forward. Thompson Rivers University in Kamloops, there may be the possibility of incorporating an evening workshop or lecture in the renewable energy course within the geothermal module. And another interesting organization is the Iron and Earth Initiative, which could be involved in the northeast of BC. And they're an initiative that's essentially trying to diversify the skills of skilled trade workers to expand beyond oil and gas in northeast BC. So a lot of the same skills are used for geothermal direct use projects that the oil and gas industry uses as well, and so there is a lot of transferable skills involved there, and just some investment in updating the training of these skilled tradespeople would really go a long way towards incentivizing the geothermal industry in BC, and particularly in Northeast BC. So as I mentioned, these webinars were developed as part of this follow-up project. We're currently on Module 10, but these are all of the modules that were completed, put together, and then recorded. And this is just a screenshot taken of the Twitter account that was started in October. And then I've just got a couple of screenshots highlighting the website and the different menu items. So we've got some background on the project, some resources that you can utilize, and then the learning modules, again, as I mentioned, available in webinar format, or if you just want to take a look at the PDFs, those are there as well. And there were some recommendations as part of the follow-up project, and that's basically following up with communities and making them aware of the website resource and modular webinars. And the project content for direct use geothermal resources was proposed to be included as a webinar at BC Economic Development Division. So there is the possibility of attracting more communities through that avenue, possibly, and also presenting the results of the project at the North Central Local Government Association meeting in Terrace. And then just following up with the communities, organizations, and institutions that participated in our project, and seeking possible government support for the carbon tax proposal and incentives for direct use geothermal, which is included as an appendix as part of the follow-up project report. So if you took the time to through our modules and listen to our modules, thank you for taking that time. And in the follow-up report, there are a series of steps that you can take. But essentially, if you have any questions, I recommend that you or a member of your community contacts Geoscience BC. If you have any confusion about how to move forward and evaluate this resource, we can guide you in the right direction and possibly connect you with some of the grant programs that have shown interest in supporting this type of resource. So please do not hesitate to get in touch with Geoscience BC or Tuyaterra Geocorp if you have any questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to these webinars and read through the reports.